domed chamber of the Galactic Summit hummed with the low-frequency vibrations of a dozen different languages. Holographic star maps pulsed along the curved walls, casting shifting blue light across the ornate robes and polished exoskeletons of the assembled delegates. Above them, through the transparent ceiling, the swirling storms of Arcturus Prime churned in silent majesty. Admiral Marcus Kane adjusted the collar of his dress uniform, the only human in a sea of alien dignitaries. The Zephyrian Dominion's delegation occupied the central platform, their chitinous forms gleaming under the chamber lights. High Prelate Vexis lounged in his floating throne, 4 segmented arms folded across his chest. His compound eyes reflected the holograms with cold amusement. Ambassador Drell of the Vorak Collective slithered forward on his ventral tendrils, his voice a modulated hiss. "The human petition is before the council. Shall we proceed?" Vexis waved a dismissive claw. "Let us hear this request from the fledglings of Sol." Kane stepped onto the speaker's dais, the platform adjusting silently to his weight. The eyes of the galaxy burned into him. The Human Federation seeks a mutual defense pact with the Galactic Council. The Xantorian hive fleets advance unchecked. If they breach the Orion line, a ripple of laughter cut through the chamber. A Grelian delegate, his frilled neck expanding with mirth, snorted. "Your Orion line is a joke." 3 outpost stations and a handful of patrol ships. Vexis leaned forward, his mandibles clicking. "Admiral Kane, your species has barely mastered warp travel. Your largest warship is smaller than a Dominion escort frigate. What exactly do you bring to this alliance?" Kane's jaw tightened. "Ingenuity, adaptability. We've held our borders for 2 centuries without facing a real threat," Vexis interrupted. He gestured to the central holoprojector, where schematics of human vessels flickered. "Look at these designs. Primitive railguns, chemical propulsion backups. Your ships are slow, your weapons obsolete. The Dominion does not ally with insects." Murmurs of agreement spread through the chamber. The Vorak ambassador's tendrils twitched in what might have been sympathy. Perhaps humanity should focus on civilian development. Leave galactic security to those equipped for it. Kane's hand hovered near the data pad on his belt. Earth Command's last transmission burned in his mind. "Hold your tongue. Let them underestimate us." He forced a neutral expression. "The hive won't stop at our borders. If the council refuses to stand with us, well, stand alone." Vexis rose from his throne, his armored carapace scraping against the floating platform. "How noble, tell me, Admiral. When the Xantorians reduce your homeworld to ash, will your famous ingenuity save you then?" The chamber erupted in derisive chirps and clicks. Kane met Vexis' gaze without flinching. "You're making a mistake." The High Prelate's laughter echoed through the dome. "No, human, the mistake was yours, thinking you belonged at this table." He turned to the assembled delegates. "The motion is dismissed. Let the record show humanity's petition was denied unanimously." One by one, the council representatives activated their voting orbs. Crimson lights bloomed across the chamber. Kane didn't need to look to know the outcome. As he turned to leave, Ambassador Drell slithered closer, his voice dropping to a whisper. "A word of advice, Admiral. When the storm comes, the wise insect finds shelter, not futile defiance." Kane paused at the arched exit, the gas giant's glow painting his face in oranges and reds. "We're not insects, Ambassador, and that storm." He tapped his datapad. A single green light blinked in response. "You haven't seen what we've built in the dark." Outside, the void between stars waited, and hidden within it, something stirred. The air inside Pluto's hidden drydock was so cold it made the metal groan. Commander Lisa Hayes' breath fogged her visor as she stepped onto the gantry, her boots magnetically locked to the grated walkway. Below her, the skeletal frames of dozens of warships stretched into the darkness, their angular hulls bristling with unpowered weapon ports. The dim glow of welding torches flickered like distant stars as engineers in pressurized suits crawled over the vessels. their movements precise, despite the bulky gear. Raj Patel's voice crackled over her helmet comm. "She's ready for you, Commander." Hayes followed the chief engineer's signal to the largest frame in the dry dock, the USN Defiance, its prow sharp enough to split asteroids. The ship's armor plating wasn't just reinforced titanium. It was layered with stolen Zephyrian stealth composites, reverse, engineered over 3 brutal years of Black Ops raids. Patel floated beside her, his dark eyes gleaming behind his visor. "We finished the last of the railgun calibrations yesterday. The Zephyrians won't see these coming until it's too late." Hayes didn't smile. She couldn't. Not when Earth's survival hung on this gamble. How many are operational? 20, 7 capital ships, 43 frigates. Another dozen will be combat ready in 2 weeks. Patel tapped his wrist display, projecting a holographic schematic between them. The Olympus is already outfitted with the new plasma lances, one-shot cuts clean through their shields. A low whistle echoed over the comm. Hayes turned to see Lieutenant Chen maneuvering toward them, his suit's thrusters flaring. "You're telling me we've been building a fleet under their noses this whole time?" "Not just building," Hayes said, testing. She flicked her own display, pulling up classified footage, a Zephyrian scout ship exploding in a flash of white fire. Every pirate attack on their supply lines for the last year, that was us. Every malfunction in their border outposts. Us. Chen's grin was audible, and they never figured it out? Patel snorted. Why would they? To them we're still the backward monkeys who barely mastered warp drives. He gestured at the Defiance. But this is what happens when you push humans into a corner. Hayes stepped closer to the gantry's edge, staring down at the silent armada. The Zephyrians had laughed at their outdated ships, their primitive weapons they'd called humanity weak, unworthy. A transmission alert blinked on her HUD. Admiral Kane's face appeared, his expression grim. Hayes, the summit's over. Vexis just declared the Dominion's terms, unconditional surrender or annihilation. The dry dock seemed to grow colder. Around her, engineers had stopped working, their helmets turning toward her. Hayes exhaled slowly. Then it's time. Kane nodded. Bring them online, all of them. The moment the transmission cut, Hayes turned to Patel. Sound general alert. I want every ship prepped for combat in 6 hours. Patel hesitated. Commander, some of those crews have never fired a shot outside simulations. Doesn't matter. Hayes unsealed her helmet, letting the dry dock's icy air bite her face. They'll learn fast. She raised her voice, the comm system carrying it to every corner of the facility. Listen up. The Zephyrians think we're weak. They think, well, roll over and die. She pointed at the Defiance. Let's show them what happens when humanity fights back. A roar of approval echoed through the comms. Patel grinned, slamming his fist against a console. Across the dry dock, floodlights flared to life, illuminating the full scale of the hidden fleet. Ships that shouldn't exist. Weapons that defied alien physics. Hayes watched as the first engines ignited, their blue glow cutting through Pluto's eternal night. Time to wake the giants, she murmured. The bridge of the USN Atlantica hummed with tension. Captain Ryan Blake gripped the armrests of his command chair, his knuckles white against the black metal. The main screen displayed the red swirl of Mars, its thin atmosphere glowing faintly against the starfield. But it wasn't the planet that held his attention. It was the storm of violet light tearing through space above it. Contacts confirmed, Lieutenant Chen announced, her voice tight. 1,200 Zephyrian signatures, battle formations, Omega and Theta. They're not even trying to hide. Blake exhaled slowly. The Dominion had come in force. Their ships pulsed like living things, their organic hulls shimmering with bioluminescent energy. The largest, a monstrous dreadnought shaped like a barbed spearhead, dominated the center of the formation. Its forward cannons glowed with building power. Battle stations, Blake ordered. The klaxons wailed, and the crew moved with practiced efficiency. Across Mars orbit, Earth's defense satellites powered up, their targeting lasers flickering like angry fireflies. Captain Ensign Rivera called from comms. We're receiving a transmission from the lead vessel, audio only. Blake nodded. Put it through. The voice that filled the bridge was guttural, layered with the clicks of chitinous mandibles. Human vessel, this is Battlemaster Krax of the Zepyrian Dominion. Your system is ours. Surrender now, and your cities will be spared. Blake leaned forward. This is Captain Ryan Blake of the United Earth Starship Atlantica. You are in violation of sovereign Terran space. Withdraw immediately. A harsh, grating laugh echoed through the speakers. Your defiance is amusing. We see your pitiful defenses. Where is your fleet? Did they abandon you? Blake exchanged a glance with his XO, Commander Hale. Her lips were pressed into a thin line. They both knew the plan. Scan their formation, Blake murmured. Hale nodded and tapped a command into her console. The tactical display lit up, showing the Zepyrian fleet in perfect detail, their ships clustered tightly, arrogant in their superiority. All stations report ready, sir, Hale said. Blake keyed a private channel. Admiral Kane, we are in position, awaiting your signal. Kane's voice crackled back, calm and deadly. Hold steady, Captain. Let them commit. On screen, the Zepyrian dreadnought's cannons flared brighter. Last chance human, Krax snarled. Order your people to kneel, Blake smirked. Funny, I was about to say the same to you. The Zepyrian fleet surged forward, their engines blazing. Hundreds of ships descended toward Mars, their weapons locking onto the Atlantica and the handful of other human vessels visible in orbit. Sir, they're targeting our satellites, Chen warned. Let them, Blake said. The first volley of Zepyrian plasma fire streaked across the void. The defense satellites exploded in silent bursts of light, their wreckage spinning into the darkness. The dreadnought's main cannon fired, a searing beam of violet energy that lanced toward the Atlantica. Evasive, Blake barked. The Atlantica rolled hard to port, the beam grazing its shields. The ship shuddered, alarms blaring as damage reports flashed across the screens. They're not holding back, Hale muttered. Good, Blake said. He opened a fleet. Wide channel. All units maintain position. Do not engage. Repeat, do not engage. On the Zepyrian flagship, Battlemaster Krax watched the human ship scatter. His sensory pits flared with satisfaction. Pathetic. They have no strategy, no strength. His second, in command, a hulking warrior named Vrix, tilted his head. Their behavior is unusual. They should be fleeing. Krax waved a clawed hand. They have nowhere to run. The Vorak have sealed their outer systems. Earth is ours. The Zepyrian fleet pressed deeper into Mars orbit, their sensors sweeping the area. The few human ships continued to evade, their movements just a little too slow, a little too clumsy. Then Vrix stiffened. Battlemaster, our long-range scans. Therese, something wrong. Krax turned. Explain. The human colonies, lunar Ceres, even the outer habitats, their populations, they're gone. A chill ran through Krax's exoskeleton. What? The cities are empty. No life signs, no energy readings. It's like they vanished. Krax's claws flexed. Impossible. They couldn't have evacuated billions so quickly. Then the alarms shrieked. New contacts. Vrix roared. Everywhere. Space itself seemed to fracture. One by one, hidden human ships decloaked. Not just a handful, not just a fleet, but an armada. Hundreds of angular warships, their railguns humming with power, their missile bays open. They appeared inside the Zepyrian formation, so close their hulls nearly scraped. And at the center of it all, the massive bulk of the USN Olympus, Admiral Kane's flagship, its prow gleaming like a blade. Krax's mandibles clicked in horror. They were never running, he whispered. They were herding us. On the Atlanticus bridge, Blake finally smiled. Now, he said. The void erupted in fire. The void between Mars and Jupiter hung silent, the distant stars watching like indifferent gods. The Zephyrian fleet drifted in perfect formation, their organic-looking hulls pulsing with violet energy. Battlemaster Krax lounged in his command throne, mandibles twitching in amusement. "Still no sign of their fleet?" he asked, his voice dripping with contempt. Sensor Officer Vriss shook his head, his antennae trembling. "Nothing, Battlemaster. Only their orbital defenses, weak energy signatures, primitive targeting systems." Krax chuckled, the sound like grinding stones. "Pathetic, they cower behind their planet like frightened prey." He waved a clawed hand. "Order the bombardment to begin. Let's see how long their courage lasts when their cities burn." Aboard the USN Olympus, Admiral Marcus Kane watched the alien fleet on the main display. His fingers tightened around the armrests of his chair. The bridge crew sat tense, eyes locked on their screens. "All ships report in," Kane ordered, his voice calm. "Defiance standing by," Commander Hayes responded immediately. "Atlantica ready," Captain Blake added. One by one, the other captains confirmed their readiness. Kane allowed himself a small, grim smile. "Execute Titanfall." Deep in the void, space rippled. At first, it was just a flicker, a distortion in the starlight. Then, like ghosts materializing from nothing, human warships appeared, not on the edges of the system, not at a safe distance. Inside the Zephyrian formation, Vriss's console screamed. "Battlemaster, multiple contacts everywhere." Krax bolted upright. "What, where did they?" The Olympus fired first. A railgun round the size of a shuttle punched through the nearest Zephyrian cruiser, tearing it in half before its shields could react. Across the formation, human ships unleashed hell, shields failing. Vriss shrieked. "They're targeting our..." Another cruiser exploded, its hull splitting like rotten fruit. The human ships moved with terrifying precision, their angular frames cutting through the chaos like knives. Aboard the Defiance, Hayes bared her teeth. "All batteries fire at will. Give them nothing to hide behind." The Zephyrian fleet scrambled, their perfect formation collapsing into panic. Ships collided in their haste to escape, their organic hulls buckling under the strain. Krax snarled, slamming a fist into his console. "Return fire, target their lead ship." A volley of plasma lanced toward the Olympus. The shots never connected. A swarm of human interceptors darted in, their point defense systems shredding the attacks mid-flight. "Kinetic rounds reloaded, Admiral," the weapons officer reported. Kane nodded. "Fire." Another Zephyrian ship vanished in a flash of light. Vriss's voice was hollow. They weren't hiding, Battlemaster. His antennae drooped. They were waiting, Krax roared, his claws digging into the armrests. "Full retreat. Signal the fleet to..." The Olympus's next shot tore through the command ship's engines. Alerts blared across the bridge as atmosphere vented into the void. On the Defiance's bridge, Hayes watched the carnage unfold. "They're breaking," she murmured. Blake's voice crackled over the comm. "Should we pursue?" Kane considered it for a moment, then slowly he shook his head. "No, let them run. Let them see what happens when they underestimate us." The remnants of the Zephyrian fleet fled, their shattered hulls trailing debris. The human ships held position, their weapons still humming with energy. Hayes leaned back in her chair, exhaling slowly. "Well," she said, grinning, "that went better than expected." Across the system, the stars burned cold and silent. The message was clear: humanity was done hiding. The bridge of the USN Defiance hummed with tension, every console glowing red as the tactical display updated in real time. Lieutenant Sarah Wu's fingers flew across her panel, her voice tight. "Admiral, we've got a new contact. Massive energy spike at bearing 027. Admiral Kane's face hardened on the view screen. "Identify it." Before Wu could respond, space itself seemed to tear open. A sleek, dagger-shaped warship emerged from the void, its obsidian hull shimmering with an eerie green aura. The Vorak Collective's insignia, a coiled serpent, flashed across every screen. Ambassador Drell's face appeared on the main display, his scaled lips curling into a smirk. Admiral Kane. How? Unfortunate that we meet like this. Kane's jaw clenched. Drell, I thought the Vorak valued neutrality. Drell's laughter was a dry rasp. Neutrality is for those who cannot seize opportunity. The Dominion offered us more than your pitiful Federation ever could. Wu's console screamed a warning. Sir, their weapons are charging. They're locking onto the Olympus. Kane didn't flinch. All ships, evasive maneuvers. Prepare to. The Vorak dreadnought fired. A beam of emerald energy lanced across the void, straight for the human flagship. Then, nothing. The beam struck an invisible barrier a kilometer from the Olympus, dissipating harmlessly into space. Drell's smirk faltered. What? From the darkness behind the human fleet, a massive structure decloaked. A ring-shaped platform, its surface studded with rows of ominous black cylinders. The words Project Titanfall flashed briefly on the Defiance's tactical screen before vanishing. Commander Hayes' voice crackled over the comms. Cold and calm. Fire control, you are weapons free. The platform hummed to life. The cylinders unfolded like petals, revealing massive barrels that glowed crimson. Drell's eyes widened. No, the first shot hit the Vorak dreadnought dead center. The beam punched through its shields like they weren't even there, shearing the ship in half. Secondary explosions rippled down its length, tearing it apart in a silent fireball. Debris scattered, some of it bouncing off the Defiance's shields. Wu watched, her breath caught in her throat, as the remains of the dreadnought drifted past. Kane's voice was steel. That was your only warning, Drell. Any other Vorak ships in the area? Wu scanned her display. Negative, sir, just the one. Hayes snorted. Guess they didn't want to risk more than a single ship. On the view screen, Drell's transmission flickered, his face pale, his earlier confidence gone. You hid this from us, from the entire galaxy. Kane leaned forward. We hid a lot of things. You should have stayed out of this. Wu muted the channel briefly, turning to Kane. Admiral, we're picking up distress signals from the Dreadnought's escape pod's orders. Kane hesitated only a second. Recover them. Prisoners might have intel. Hayes cut in. And if they resist? Kane's expression didn't change. Then they made their choice. Drell's transmission stabilized, his voice suddenly urgent. Admiral, wait. The Vorak Collective. We were misled. The Dominion forced our hand. Hayes laughed, sharp and humorless. Funny how betrayal sounds like regret when you're losing. Wu watched as the Defiance's recovery teams launched, their shuttles darting toward the drifting pods. One of the pods fired its thrusters, trying to flee. A single railgun shot from the Atlantica disabled its engines without a word. Drell was still talking, his voice rising in panic. You don't understand. The Dominion has allies, more fleets. If you let me go, I can Kane cut him off. You're in no position to bargain. The bridge fell silent. The only sound, the steady beep of sensors tracking the retreating Dominion ships. Wu exhaled slowly, her fingers pausing over her console. Hayes glanced at her. Something wrong, Lieutenant. Wu shook her head. Just thinking, Commander. They really thought they could surprise us. Hayes smirked. Everyone underestimates the cornered rat. Kane turned back to the view screen, where Drell's face was now a mask of defeat. Ambassador, you're going to tell us everything, starting with who else the Dominion recruited. Drell's shoulders slumped, and if I do, Kane's smile didn't reach his eyes. Then maybe we'll forget you were ever here. The transmission cut out. Wu leaned back in her chair, the weight of the moment settling over her. The Vorak had played their hand, and lost. But the Dominion was still out there, and humanity was done hiding. The bridge of the Dominion's will was a ruin. Smoke curled from shattered consoles, and the deck plates trembled with the strain of damaged engines. High Prelate Vexis clutched the armrests of his command throne, his chitinous fingers digging into the organic material. The once pristine violet glow of his flagship systems had faded to a sickly pulse, like the dying heartbeat of some great beast. Status, Vexis barked, his voice hoarse from shouting. A Zephyrian sensor officer, his exoskeleton cracked from a nearby explosion, turned with wide, glassy eyes. Engines at face shields, offline. Weapon systems. I don't care about the weapons, Vexis snarled. Can we jump? The officer hesitated. The warp drive is damaged, but then fix it. Outside the viewports, the remnants of the Dominion fleet drifted like broken toys. Human railgun rounds had punched clean through their organic hulls, leaving gaping wounds that vented atmosphere and crew into the void. The Olympus, Admiral Kane's flagship, loomed in the distance, its angular silhouette framed by the glow of Earth. It hadn't moved. It hadn't needed to. A comms officer stiffened. Prelate, incoming transmission, all channels. Vexis hissed through his mandibles. On screen. The holographic display flickered to life, and Admiral Kane's face filled the bridge. His expression was calm, almost bored, as if the annihilation of the Dominion's armada had been nothing more than a routine exercise. Behind him, the Olympus bridge crew worked with quiet efficiency, their uniforms crisp despite the battle. I, Prelate Vexis, Kane said, his voice cool. I trust you've reconsidered your opinion of humanity's pathetic fleet. Vexis' claws twitched. This isn't over. The Dominion has thousands more ships. Kane leaned forward slightly. And how many of them are ready to die today? Silence, the Admiral continued. We could have wiped out your entire fleet, every last ship. Instead, we showed restraint, a courtesy you never extended to us. Vexis felt the eyes of his crew on him. Their fear was palpable, a thick scent in the recycled air. He straightened, forcing his voice to remain steady. What do you want? Kane's smile was thin. Nothing. This isn't a negotiation, it's a lesson. The transmission flickered, and the view shifted, a live feed from the Olympus tactical display. Dozens of red dots, each representing a Dominion ship, blinked out one by one as the human fleet systematically disabled them. Then, just as quickly, the targeting locks disengaged. You see that, Prelate? Kane said. That's mercy, a concept your kind seems to struggle with. Vexis' throat tightened. You're letting us go. For now. The word hung in the air like a blade. Kane's gaze hardened. Return to your council. Tell them what happened here. And remember this moment the next time you think about underestimating humanity. The transmission cut out, leaving the bridge in stunned silence. Vexis slumped back into his throne, his mind racing. The humans had let them live. Not out of weakness. Not out of fear. Out of choice. Prelate, the sensor officer whispered. Orders. Vexis closed his eyes. Set course for the nearest jump point. Maximum speed. As the Dominions were limped away, its engines sputtering, the crew moved in hushed silence. No one dared speak. No one needed to. The message was clear. Humanity had won. And the galaxy would never forget it. On the bridge of the Olympus, Admiral Kane turned away from the view screen. His XO commander Hayes stood nearby, her arms crossed. Think they'll listen? Kane exhaled. Doubt it. But we made our point. Hayes smirked. And if they come back? The Admiral's expression darkened. Then we won't hold back. The crew exchanged glances. No one spoke. They didn't need to. The Dominion had been warned. The bridge of the Olympus hummed with quiet triumph. Admiral Marcus Kane stood before the main view screen, watching the last of the Zephyrian fleet vanish into hyperspace. Their shattered formations left glowing debris fields across the Martian orbital lanes, testament to humanity's brutal efficiency. Behind him, Ambassador Drell of the Vorak Collective sat restrained in a magnetic chair, his four eyes darting between the human officers. His once pristine robes were singed from the destruction of his dreadnought. Commander Lisa Hayes strode onto the bridge, her boots clicking against the deck. She stopped beside Kane, folding her arms as she studied Drell. Still think we're weak? she asked, her voice dripping with venom. Drell's mandibles twitched. You deceived the entire galaxy. Kane chuckled, turning to face the ambassador. No, you deceived yourselves. He gestured to the tactical display, where the remnants of the Dominion's once mighty armada flickered in retreat. You saw what you wanted to see, a young species, barely capable of interstellar travel, easy prey. Hayes leaned in, her smile sharp. And now, the ambassador's carapace darkened, a Vorak sign of shame. Across the bridge, Lieutenant Sarah Wu worked her console, her fingers flying over the holographic controls. Sir, she called. Incoming transmission from the Galactic Council priority channel. Kane nodded. Put them through. The main screen flickered, revealing the assembled leaders of the Federation. High Prelate Vexis was notably absent, his seat empty. In his place stood a trembling Zephyrian subaltern, his chitin cracked from battle damage. The Ceralian representative spoke first, her floating orbs pulsing with unease. Admiral Kane, the Council requests an immediate ceasefire. Hayes barked a laugh. Requests? Kane held up a hand, silencing her. You dismissed us, mocked us, sent your fleets to burn our worlds. His voice hardened. And now you request mercy. The subaltern's claws clicked against his podium. The Dominion acknowledges your strength. The words seemed to pain him. We withdraw all claims to Sol system sovereignty. Wu snorted. Damn right you do. Kane stepped closer to the screen, his shadow falling across the council members. Here are our terms. He ticked them off on his fingers. Full reparations for the ships you destroyed. Immediate withdrawal from all human-claimed systems, and a seat on this council, with veto power. The chamber erupted in protests. The Vorak delegate slammed his appendages on the table. Preposterous. You would dictate terms to the Hayes cut in. Her voice like steel. We just did. She tapped her console, and the screen split, showing the Olympus main batteries powering up. Or we can finish what we started. Silence. The Ceralian representative bowed her floating orbs. The Council accepts. Drell let out a low hiss from his chair. You've made enemies today, Admiral. Kane turned, his expression cold. No, we made an example. He nodded to Hayes. Take the ambassador to the brig. The Vorak will want him back eventually. As security officers hauled Drell away, Wu exhaled sharply. Sir, did we just win a war in a single battle? Kane gazed at the stars beyond the view screen. No, Lieutenant, we just proved we could. He tapped his comb. All ships, this is Olympus. Stand down from battle stations, but keep weapons hot. His lips curled, just in case they need another reminder. Hayes moved to his side, watching the last Superior signatures fade from the scanners. What now? Now, Kane clapped her on the shoulder. Now we go home. Across the Sol system, human ships flickered into view, cloaks disengaging, railguns cooling. The Defiance and Atlantica fell into formation beside the Olympus, their hulls scarred but unbroken. On Mars, the first colonial defenders emerged from their bunkers, staring at the sky in disbelief. On Earth, crowds gathered in city squares, watching the live feeds. Cheers erupted as Kane's final transmission played on loop. Next time, we want. In the dark between stars, the galaxy shuddered. Humanity had arrived,